Hello everyone, my name is Brandon and today I'll make a video on the explanation of purgatory and why you as a Christian should believe in this doctrine. If you ask a Catholic, what is purgatory? The common response would be that it is a place for people who don't necessarily deserve to go to heaven or hell. They pass through this place in purgatory to prepare them in heaven. That could be an okay response if you're just trying to get a quick explanation and just throw it out there. However, if you want to go more in depth, you would have to explain more than just that, as purgatory isn't simply for those who don't deserve heaven or hell, because no one does deserve heaven. Purgatory is a Christian dogma that has always been the belief of the early church, straight from biblical doctrine. And if you disagree with the doctrine of purgatory, I hope that after watching this video, you could at least come to a place of respect for those who do. So I would like to look at a parable of the afterlife that Jesus gives. And after looking at this parable, the concept of purgatory is undeniable. And it's in Luke chapter 12, verses 42 through 48. The Lord answered, "Who then is the faithful and wise servant? He is the one that his master will put in charge, to put the household and give the other servants their share of food at the proper time. How happy that servant is if his master finds him doing this when he comes home. Indeed, I tell you, the master will put that servant in charge of all his property." So we get this description of a servant who truly pleases his master. This is a clear symbol of the one who follows God and is on their way to heaven. So Jesus goes on to give other examples of those in the afterlife. But if that servant says to himself that his master is taking a long time to come back, and if he begins to beat the other servants, both the men and the women, and eats and drinks and gets drunk, then the master will come back one day when the servant does not expect him, and at a time he does not know. The master will cut him to pieces and make him share the fate of the disobedient. This is a clear symbol of the one who's going to hell, who disrespects the poor, and in so doing, disrespects God. Hell is really a symbol of our own hearts. So in a way you could say that God never sends anyone to hell, but rather it's our own sin that does, and our own hate that we put towards others that simply manifests into hell in the afterlife. However, the reality of purgatory, that there is a third place in the afterlife, is so clear that after reading this parable, it is undeniable, because Jesus doesn't simply end the parable off there, about a servant who goes to heaven and one who goes to hell, but gives a very strong concept of a third place in the afterlife. The servant who knows what his master wants him to do, but does not get himself ready and do it, will be punished with a heavy whipping. But the servant who does not know what his master wants, and yet does something for which he deserves a whipping, will be punished with a light whipping. So Jesus doesn't simply cut the parable off, where he gives a symbol of one person going to heaven and another going to hell. He gives a clear description of a third place in the afterlife. These two servants who are going to heaven, yet receive a whipping. And that is purgatory. So purgatory is simply a temporal punishment. The concept of purgatory is also strong in the letters of St. Paul. In his first letter to the Corinthians he writes, "Some will use gold or silver or precious stones in building on the foundation. Others will use wood or grass or straw. This teaches two things. The Christian who lays his foundation using gold or silver or precious stones is the Christian who lays his foundation upon good works. But the Christian who lays his foundation upon wood or grass or straw is the Christian who lays his foundation using bad works." He goes on to write, "But if anyone's work is burnt up, then he will lose it, but he himself will be saved, as if he had escaped through the fire. The Christian who has laid his foundation on bad works will have them burnt up and through the fire. Though the Christian receives the grace necessary to go to heaven through the cross, a temporal punishment is still required, and this is the definition of purgatory, which purges out any bad works in the Christian. As it is written, 'Nothing unclean can go to heaven.'" So for those of you who think it might be cruel that before going to heaven many have to pass through this fire, keep in mind that purgatory is a spiritual flame, so it operates different than as a fire here on earth that does nothing more than destroy, but a spiritual fire cleanses the soul. There may be pain involved, But to those who are in purgatory are given the joy because they know they are going to heaven. But there is simply a fire that they need to pass through first in order to be cleansed. And after this pain, they will have joy to the fullest and an eternal rest. Purgatory is a tradition of the early church that has been carried on in the Orthodox and Catholic churches, as we are the oldest and original churches of Christianity. The concept of purgatory has always been believed by Christians and is simply a doctrine from the biblical teachings of the afterlife. Hey guys, so I didn't make a proper outro for the video. This is actually the day after I made that video. But please do like this video to show your support, as it is highly appreciated, and subscribe with notifications bell on to stay in tune for future content. I don't know what that little thing was that I was doing with my hands, but anyways, I thank you for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.